Welcome to the Possibility Paradigm podcast, where we have conversations that are at the intersection of possibility, consciousness, actual experience, and energetic intelligence. The Possibility Paradigm are actually more than conversations. They're experiences that can change your tomorrows. Let's jump into today's episode. Hi everyone, welcome to the next episode of the Possibility Paradigm. I'm Grace Ambrook, your host, and today the paradigm that we're shifting if you choose, is from hard work to energetic command. And so what part of you is insistent on forgetting that you actually have the ability to command energy, that energy and frequency comes first, and that with the energy and frequency stabilized, there is no such thing as hard work. There is commitment, there is dedication, but it's not efforting, and it's not held within the hardship programming. So there's a quiet agreement that most people are still living inside. It's very subtle. It's it's very common. It's a bonding platform. And if it sits like this, it sounds like this, an agreement with yourself that says, if I work hard enough, if I prove myself enough, then the success will arrive. If I struggle long enough, see, I can't even say them, right? Then, with all of those things, if I work hard enough, if I prove myself, if I struggle long enough, then I'll be rewarded. Then things will work for me. Then the best of me will be acknowledged. And let's just acknowledge that in this changing world, that used to work, and it still does. It's just that there is now available a whole new menu, a whole new way of being, as we know, as we've been talking about. And so even though that agreement seemed to work, it's old and it's collapsing. And it will become, oddly enough, harder and harder to maintain that way of being as the world is collapsing. Because you see, effort was never actually the currency. And the truth is that if trying hard enough was absolutely effective, then all of us would be in very different positions in aspects of our life than where we are now. But the key here, the shift in your paradigm, is not about the rightness and the wrongness, the goodness and badness. It's about the orientation. Who are you being while you are doing anything and everything? What frequency are you stabilizing? So this is not so much about mindset, and it's definitely not about productivity. Things will be produced because of your being, not because of your doing. In the old paradigm, hard work was set up as a virtue. Exhaustion was an evidence. Exhaustion was some sort of proof, right? But it's not the evidence of worth. And struggle is not the proof that you're on the right path. And in fact, any time we lock ourselves into being on the right path or on the wrong path, we're actually unconsciously entangling ourselves in the hard work paradigm rather than the energetic stabilization. And so these were survival programs, not original coding. And with all of the activation on the global energetics, I think it's very obvious that there is a lot of light being shone on where survival mode and survival tactics can no longer operate on this planet. Because this is one of the things that when you start to realize this, your whole paradigm can actually change. That energy leads and responsibility. Energy leads and reality responds. And so a whole lot of our hard work has been on trying to change reality, to shift reality from reality, not from energy. And so when you know that reality responds to energy and you are the sovereign master of your energy, no matter what the circumstance, when you embrace that as a truth rather than survival programming, then when you orient yourself to that, the possibilities, but even more than the possibilities, the actual, what's the word I'm looking for? So there are the possibilities, there are the potentials, but then there's that actual combination of those two in the actions that you do. And the actions will come from source, which is actually coded for ease, because it's not bothered by bumps and humps. It's not bothered by hard things, because there is an ease inherently in running your original codes and your original essence. So when you're oriented to hardship, trust me, you see problems everywhere. I was actually working with a client recently, and she discovered, or she came to me and she was excited and tearful at the same time. And she said, I just realized that I just see problems everywhere. It doesn't matter what I'm doing, I will see a problem there, right? And so as she saw that, of course, we moved her through, like she gave it up, like that's crazy, because she'd also been activated enough to know that energy is first. And there was so much pleasure and dynamism and commitment and showing up in her ease and in her essence. So, as I said, when you're oriented towards hardship, you see problems everywhere. Like you have to have them, right? You have to have a problem to actually be able to function with hardship. So, and when you are oriented to effort, you are also calling in systems that demand more and more and more of you. It's a demand energy. Whereas when you are orienting towards ease, there is I really try and avoid to use the word flow, because it's been memed off its integrity. But there is a fluidity, and it is like riding the wave. You know, when you're oriented to effort, you have to keep paddling on your surfboard out all the time, and you never catch a wave because you're oriented towards hardship. When you're oriented towards energy first, frequency being on the wave, you get to ride the wave, right? Not because you had to effort to get there, but because you're in sync with the whole environment. So as you shift the paradigm and learn to lead with clarity, with self-trust, and this one, the internal authority, things reorganize around you. Now, this internal authority is very much associated with the like change the internal, and then the external reflects that. But it's it's internal authority, not internal rabbit holing. Internal authority, understanding that you are the master, you are sovereign of your frequency. Because as you allow the paradigm of being sovereign of your frequency, things do reorganize around you. Money responds differently. Instead of you trying to get money to do things, money actually responds differently. Opportunities show up not through force, but through connection, not attraction, connection. And timelines collapse because your frequency is shifting where your focus is, which is where your timelines attune to. And this is all not because you're chasing them, but because you've stopped orienting yourself as being small and having to work through hardship. So very much in this podcast today, I am talking about sovereignty, and it's also, a phrase that's bandied about. But sovereignty is actually not rebellious. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. And sometimes people even describe it as quiet, but, I'm not quiet, nor am I rebellious. I'm clear and I'm focusing on my frequency all the time. But sovereignty doesn't actually require you to argue with the systems. It doesn't want you to prove yourself. It doesn't explain why it deserves ease. It just simply says, I am all these things. I am the sovereign in my choices. I am sovereign in my frequency, and I am sovereign in my ease. This is available. It's all available. And then the sovereignty allows the resonance to do the work. And so that's way more fun. It's full of surprises. Things happen that you would never have thought of, and that's the whole point. And, one of the other areas where a lot of people work with hardship rather than working with the frequency is visibility and, having to be visible in order to sell. But real visibility isn't about persuasion. It might be about availability, but in the sovereignty, there is absolutely no need to convince people. There is no need to sell to them. There is a trust within your own being that you're actually working with frequency and developing the capacities to command, claim, and collect all that is in your view of the world. So in this, I mean, one of the areas that I want to briefly address as well, of course, is where a lot of people play the hardship game, consciously or unconsciously. And, when I work with a lot of people, and I was the same as before I broke into my unique money codes, where, you will argue that you're not doing hardship with money, but it's pretty rampant in the collective consciousness, and it is utilized as a proof of how hard life, can actually be. But when you start to work with what money actually is and what money responds to, that again is a complete paradigm shift, because money doesn't respond to sacrifice. It doesn't respond to suffering, and it doesn't respond to chasing. Truly what money responds to is command and coherence. And so all of the money stories that sit in our energy fields, they need to be addressed for sure. But when you know who you are, and when your actions match your frequency, and when you stop outsourcing your authority, including to money, then money can find its, I'm going to use the word, money can find its role again in your in your world. It's a little bit defined, but the starting points, because truly money is a lubricant, right? It does nothing without human interaction. So who are you interacting with this agreed concept that we all work with called money, right? And so, but if you don't work for it, and if you don't lower yourself and compromise yourself in order to have it, and you don't fight with it, when you lead it, money will organize around that energy. And it's a completely different way of being with yourself and with money. So instead of asking yourself, how hard do I need to work? Or how much more do I need to push? Or how long do I have to endure this, which is what I hear quite a lot, how much more time, it's going to take this amount of time or that amount of time. That's another paradigm that we can work with. But, my suggestion is try asking something different, because asking is actually, these are not questions that you need to answer through your mind, because we don't do mindset work here. These are questions that are prods to the universe, prods to your higher capacity, prods to your higher self, to your infinite self, and your connection as source to source via your consciousness. So these are the questions. What frequency am I leading with today? What would ease choose? And if this didn't have to be so hard, what happens then? Who am I then? If it actually doesn't have to be this hard, oh my God, what am I going to do if this doesn't actually have to be this hard? Right? And this is not laziness. This is intelligence. This is infinite intelligence, the intelligence of your unique codes that you came on this planet to express and to share and to experience to a degree. And so adopting some of these things, playing with them, the worst thing that's going to happen is that your world is going to change, right? This is not going to stop anything. These are all about dynamism, right? So these are not going to backfire on you. And I think we can all agree that the future is not, it doesn't belong to the most exhausted. It's actually created and connected to those who are willing to trust yourself and to lead the energy and to lead with the energy and to let reality respond and know that you're a sovereign enough being without all the veils of blame, shame, judgment, and guilt. If you lift all of those veils off, how do you respond when reality shows up differently? Just the other day I was working with somebody, and during the session, they remarked that it just came up. They had a remembering of how much they'd adopted all the guilt they felt when people said, oh, gee, it's curious that you're spending that sort of money on that sort of thing right now. One of them had purchased, a beautiful dog, a love of their life, spent 15 years with this beautiful dog, and excuse me, and their partner at the time when they purchased the dog sort of said, do you think you should be spending your money on that? Right? So then all of this guilt comes into the field, and or you shouldn't really be spending your money on that. Right? So then as you become more conscious and more congruent, you need to be aware of where the guilt projections might still be adopted by you, and tell them to bugger off, right? Noted, not relevant. Not relevant to you. Might be relevant to all the people who want to do hardship, but they're not relevant to somebody who's actually allowing frequency to lead, because they're a lie. A total lie. So your future is already here, because time doesn't really exist. Anyway, I don't necessarily want to go down that particular pathway today. But to come back to replacing it, the paradigm of hard work with energetic command will absolutely change your life and your way of being. And so, if something has in this conversation today has stirred you, not it probably won't have motivated you, because I don't believe in motivating people. I believe in stirring something, in touching something, in activating something. That's a resonance. And resonance expands calibration enormously. And I'm opening a space where you can go way, way deeper into this work, not to fix you, not to teach you how to try harder, but to stabilize your sovereignty and to live as the frequency that you came to explore and express here. And then allow the capacity to actually allow life to organize around that, right? And so you'll find all the possibilities around that in the details and the invitation in the show notes, So if you need to be pressured or convinced about working with me, I am not your person, right? So this is an opening, and it's an opening for those people who know. And when you know, I'd love to get to know you. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk again soon. And remember, you are the possibility. Bye for now. I hope today's episode really opened up your world and opened up your possibilities. As I would have mentioned during the episode, the possibilities calendar is available for people who subscribe. It's a simple prompt to have either on your wall, on your desk, gives you daily conscious activations, resets your energy in attunement with the possibilities that are you. It's a great energetic anchor. Simply hit the link here and sign up as a subscriber, and that will be on its way to you instantly. Thanks for listening.